For years, arts organizations have been facing a problem, and that is declining audiences. In 2022, according to the National Endowment for the Arts, only 48% of the population here in the United States attended an arts performance. Even worse, only 6% of the population attended a classical music performance. So as I speak to a room full of arts administrators, the question comes up, does art still matter to us? Fortunately, the answer is yes. 81% of people believe that arts are a positive experience in the world, where 73% of people here in the United States believe that arts give them pure pleasure and experience to participate in. So the question is, what do we do when we see these numbers declining? Hi, my name is Evan Gidley, and I'm the Executive Director of Summermusik. Today I'm going to be talking about the power of participatory art and how participatory art creates union within our communities and inspires hope. So as I mentioned, about 48% of the U.S. population attended. This is 6 percentage points less than 2017, so the COVID-19 pandemic certainly slowed those arts attendance rates. However, the good news is that 52% of adults participated in art making, and that number stayed flat from 2017 to 2022 according to the NEA. In fact, half of us, at least half of us, admit to singing in the shower as a way of art making. So first off, a definition, what is participatory art? So it's an approach to art making that engages the public participation in the creative process, and in fact the art is incomplete without that audience's physical interaction. And it has several benefits. First off, it promotes empathy, creates a sense of well-being, and most importantly, it unifies our communities that we live in. So today I'm going to be talking about a case study that my organization, Summermusik, an event that we put on last year in September of 2023, and that will lead to some ideas for how that we as young arts administrators can bring participatory arts into our organizations. So Little Amal is a 12-foot tall puppet of a 10-year-old Syrian refugee girl. She was a project that started in the United Kingdom, and she has since traveled all across the world, bringing a message of hope to people around the world. So as you can see, this was just at the end of 2022. She's traveled over 13 countries. Now that number is higher, about 16 countries. Lots of views on social media, lots of in-person attendance at her events, and also a lot of media coverage. So in order to put on our event, the first thing that we had to do was identify a theme. What was important about Little Amal coming to Cincinnati? And the theme that we came up with was Wade in the Water. And that's kind of developing the connection between crossing from Kentucky into Ohio and the symbolism that many enslaved individuals had to encounter on their journey crossing over into a new area. So with that theme, it was important for us to first put together some lead partners. And so the first question is, where is a 12-foot tall puppet going to walk? And we decided on the Roebling Bridge, again because of that symbolism. And based on the date and her availability, we found out that the Kroger Wellness Festival was going on at that time. So we partnered with them. They already had all of the street closures in place to make this event possible. The Freedom Center was also a very important partner. Amal's Vision of Hope is something that resonates with their mission, and they agreed to host a concert as part of the event for us. And then we also wanted to be certain that we were reaching out to the immigrant and refugee community here locally. So we partnered with Cincinnati Compass, which is an organization that's part of the Chamber of Commerce that is focused on reaching out to those communities. So not only that, we also wanted to give people the opportunity to participate in this event. So we reached out to all of these arts organizations and arts adjacent organizations listed here to have some sort of pre-event workshop that would allow participants to come, maybe create an art project, bring that art project down to the event themselves and use that as part of Little Amal's walk. There were also some events and different partners here that were panels or topics on immigrants and refugees that people were invited to attend. So here are a couple of our photos. So one special project that we did was that we partnered with The Well, which has a program called Mindful Music Moments, which is a meditation practice for students that are in school-age children. And so we commissioned a composer who is a refugee herself to write a new work. And one of the first things we did was we attended World Refugee Day in June, and we created this cardboard cutout that I'm standing next to. Not actual size, by the way. And so we asked people that event, what brings you hope? And from that, those collection of ideas that we got, the composer then composed a new about 5-minute piece, and it was recorded at the well in their office, which is what this photo is for. So that was incorporated into their mindful music moments here locally and nationally, and that was also another tool for us to help get school children to come down to the event. There was also an education and activity pack that Little Amal's team provided, and this is something that we promoted within Cincinnati public schools and other school systems, again, trying to get kids to participate leading up to the event. The second big event we did was at Findlay Market, and what you see here are people creating quilt squares. So they held a public event in late July. People could come based on the topic of hope and inspiration and create their quilt square for a project that would eventually be sewn together, which we'll show in a little bit. These are just a few images from some of the other workshops that we had. We had a wide variety of projects that were created. Some were geared more specifically towards kids, some were geared towards adults and people of all ages. And as you can see, those projects that were created did actually come down the day of the event. So these are some photos from the day themselves. We had a lot of people who played on the flying pig metaphor here in Cincinnati, but really people of all countries coming down for the event. And here are a couple pictures of Amal actually interacting with those pieces that were created for the event. Again, the audience was a key part of her journey in coming across the bridge. And then to tie into the theme, we partnered with a trio of vocalists who sang Wade in the Water, along with David Schode and Revolution Dance Theater, who had a trio of dancers. So this was on the Kentucky side of the bridge, which is the beginning of her journey. There are references in the tune Wade in the Water to red and white, hence the color of their clothing. And this was kind of a moment where Little Amal was a little bit afraid. She's about to cross over this border, and there's a little bit of uncertainty before she jumps in. We partnered with Artworks, and students presented this crown to Little Amal, signifying the Queen City that we are. And so that was kind of a midway point on the bridge where her kind of fear turned into acceptance and knowing that people were welcoming her to come over into Cincinnati. Once she got to Cincinnati, we had a poet. This is our youth poet laureate who provided a poem reading. We also had kind of a festive group of drummers called from Drums for Peace that performed. And then the mayor of Cincinnati, as well as Covington, gave a proclamation and welcomed Little Amal. Then we moved inside to the Freedom Center, where the orchestra gave a concert for Little Amal. That included about a 100-person choir made up of from various schools, colleges and high schools. And here's where that quilt came back. So those pieces that were made at Findlay Market were all tied together to create this quilt. And one of the tunes that we performed was called Rest. Amal actually laid down to rest, as you can see in this image, and she was covered in the quilt. And here's a few more pictures from that concert so you can kind of get a scope of the size of the orchestra. So all in all, we had 41 different community partners on this event. We had over 3,000 individuals who came down to participate on the event itself. And we estimate that we had roughly over 500,000 people that were reached our marketing efforts in spreading the message of hope with Little Amal. So to summarize our keys to success, the first one was we had a purpose. The purpose, the message of hope, celebrating immigrants and refugees was something that resonated with a lot of members of our community and still does today as immigration remains a hot issue in politics. Second was partnership. We couldn't have done this ourselves. We're a small staff of 3, so it was key that we develop those 40 partners, especially the 3 lead partners. And finally, the third element, which we're talking about today, is participation. By bringing people and inviting them to be part of her walk, it created more meaning for them versus just being passive observers. So all in all, those combined together equal unity. So it created a unifying element. People of all different backgrounds came down to that event. Didn't matter what their view was, but there was this single message of hope that everyone rallied around. So you may be wondering, what can I do to create participatory arts in my organization? I don't have a 12-foot tall puppet coming anytime soon. So a few ideas that I've come up with, and there's certainly plenty of others out there. One is pre-concert performances. This year for our big festival, we held a poetry workshop in the weeks leading up to the event on a concert focused on poetry. And those individuals came and they read poems that they created during that workshop prior to the event. So it was a way to get a different type of community involved in that event in a pre-concert performance. We've also done things with local amateur groups. The Cincinnati Brass Band did a pre-concert performance at one of our concerts, and those have been really successful in bringing in new community partnerships and more people into the events. Side-by-side performances is another one. We've certainly partnered with youth orchestras and other ensembles to get them involved in playing with our professional musicians. Workshops, I mentioned the poetry workshop. Visual art creation and display. Are there other ways within a concert that anybody in the community can create an art piece to be part of the concert? A big one is co-programming. So especially when we're programming music and repertoire that is not Western classical music, but inviting other communities to be part of coming up with those programming decisions. And finally, narration. Maybe you have someone from the community who could serve as a narrator in one of your performances. So to conclude, I strongly believe that the arts are alive and well. Even though our attendance is declining, there are certainly other ways to create participation, to bring people together. And I'll leave you with this, that 7 in 10 of Americans do believe that the arts are a unifying force and can bring our communities together. And in fact, 2 in 5 Americans believe that, or have changed an opinion based on an arts experience. So in a world as divided as ours, a country divided as ours, art is a way of unifying us all together. And I believe we can do that through participatory art. Thank you.